episode, The Endangered Species.
All right, welcome to our semi-daily look at the comment periods over on the ATF. It's actually on regulations.gov, but just paying attention. All right, looks like my audio is working. If anybody shows up, you can use your keyboards or your fingers on glass or however you do it to make comments happen and be part of an interactive thing. So yeah, there's comments over here. That's what that's all about. And then we're going to go over here and we're going to first open the ATF proposed rules on redefinition, or I guess the ATF proposed redefinition of firearms. And then we're going to open up the ATF factoring criteria for firearms with attached stabilizing braces. And then we're going to edit this video and compare what the things were like last week when we last did this and this week when we're doing this. So last week it looks as though, I guess I'll do it this way. For the redefinition of firearms, we had 81,000 comments received. As of right now, 85,666 comments received. So looks like an addition of about 4,000. And then of the approved ones last time, there was 79,000. And this time we're up to 83,668. So what did I say? 83, 680. So again, a pretty high, almost 100% ratio at this point of comments being approved on the redefinition of firearms. That's creeping me out. And then we'll go over to, that's unprecedented. That's the only one they've ever had that high of a comment ratio of like approved comments to accepted comments. And now we're going over to the criteria for firearms with attached stabilizing braces. And last time we looked, there were 112,000 comments, just about on the dot. And then this time there are 118,000 comments. So looks like the pistol braces, or I mean the pistol braces, or the attached stabilizing braces went up 6,000, where the redefinition of firearms only went up 4,000. So we're still seeing an increased number of people participating in the brace one. And now let's see how many of these are approved. It went from, 111,000 with 76,000 approved. Now it's 118,000 with 110,000 approved. That's creepy also. So they're pulling something here. 110, 130. Yeah, so that's a pretty high ratio again. And that wasn't like that at the beginning. So it's definitely something that they're doing differently this time than before. So now we're going to click save on this. And now the description of this video is going to, I guess I don't need this open at all. It's just going to have the current sort of stats for the stabilizing braces and the redefinition of firearms. So we're seeing an increase of about 4,000. Is that about 1,000 a day? It's like 1,000 a day. So we're not going to get that many. We have 57 days left on the pistol braces, only 37 days left on the redefinition of firearms, so a little over a month. And at this point, redefinition of firearms is really 80%ers, 3D printed guns. But how many guns a single AR-15 is going to end up being? All that stuff is this one. And 85,000 comments. It's not a lot of comments. So we're going to click over to the Comments tab. Why are they trying to make me watch their latest video? Every time I click on something now, regulations.gov is trying to pop this banner up that says, check out their latest video. I don't need their latest video, I don't care about it. All right, so now I've clicked over to the comments tab on both of these, and I'll sort by newest to oldest, which should give us the most recent comments at the top. I've got them in two different windows here to make it super confusing for everybody. And now I'm going to right click and open in a new tab on the first, so many of these on the redefinition of firearms. The goal here is to look at a bunch of, Patriot, good morning, to look at a bunch of them unfiltered and in a series so that we can see if they're coming through with any kind of, any kind of batches. I don't really think it means anything though, because who knows how they're filtering them, if this is individuals doing it on their own machines or if this is some giant database that they log into. Who knows how they're actually doing this. I don't know that anyone has ever asked them or if they've ever, maybe that's what that video is all about. All right, so I opened up all 25, I guess, why not? And then for the pistol one, I'll open up a number, and I imagine I'll open up about 10, because I don't like the pistol race one as much. It's getting a lot of love from the people who are addressing it, but they're both dangerous and they're both unwanted and they're both infringements. But I'd much rather, I guess, see them both just head to head, like, in lockstep at least with number of disdain. I'd like to see the industry. If you can write one comment, why can't you write two comments? Right? I don't want to see one more than the other, but I definitely want to see them both addressed. And there's definitely not a decision here. We're not accepting one instead of the other. Like, well, if you have to give us one or the other, we'll take this one. F all that noise. So, all right, I guess I did open up all 25. We'll see. That would be a pretty substantial rate of reading. So if I were to read 25 of each of these, that would be 50. That would be 1 minute per. I don't think I can read that fast. All right, so I'm going to do the comments from the redefinition of firearms first. This is the most recent one, 83396. This tyrannical, I'm going to make the screen a little bigger so you can see it. Let's see this. Oh, that's too big. I also got to move my screen a little bit. This tyrannical power move by our government should be stopped immediately. The single part of the gun that is defined as the firearm is sufficient. The rest of the parts are just parts and should remain this way. Ghost guns have been non-existent in commissions of crime. The hope of our government was the safety of Americans. If the hope of our government was the safety of Americans, then why such a push to take on things that don't affect the safety of said Americans? Criminals commit crimes and don't concern themselves with what the law is, so which parts are serialized or considered a firearm will not affect them. They will get their weapons irregardless of what laws are passed. This is all about the government wanting to know exactly what types of firearms the citizenry have, which is unconstitutional and none of the government's business. Just another ploy to shrink the rights and capabilities of the citizens while simultaneously growing the power and reach of an already overpowered government. Stop this attack on law-abiding citizens' rights and capabilities. I'm not going to comment unless people want comments. So. Next up is 83389. As a concerned citizen, I'm writing in support of the ATF's proposed rule that would help stem the rise of unregulated ghost guns. This proposed rule is a win for public safety and a loss for any criminals or extremists who wanted to buy untraceable guns with no background checks and no questions asked. At a time when extremism and gun violence are rising in this country, it's more important than ever to pass public safety measures and save lives. So that's a boilerplate, and we do see these occasionally. So there's one. Next up is 83391. Building firearms has been a bonding experience with my children, one that I pray they are able to do with their own children. I had a similar experience building a rifle with my grandfather. Are we so eager to punish the law-abiding citizen that we will take away future experiences like this? All while those criminals who this challenge this change claims to target will remain criminals and do whatever they want. And then it goes on to be a boilerplate that, well, I'm going to read it because I haven't read this particular boilerplate in a while, and I like this paragraph of it. I'm pretty sure this is from Gun Owners of America's forum. That was a boilerplate, so they didn't write it. All they did is push a button. But yeah, something made them want to push that button. And I doubt it was a whole bunch of research. Okay, so the boilerplate from that last paragraph on this comment is RE ATF 2021 R-05. The ATF must immediately withdraw their proposed rules to criminalize so-called ghost guns. To start, the very phrase ghost guns is a politically charged prerogative used to scare Americans and justify the infringement on our right to craft a homemade firearm, a right ancillary to the Second Amendment. In fact, some of the items being classified as ghost guns are best described as non-firearms because they do not meet any federal definition and are not functioning weapons. Other items referred to as ghost guns are completed 80% receiver kits, which can be described as fully functioning homemade firearms rather than the manipulative phrase ghost guns. When the state of California and the Giffords Law Center sued to force the ATF to enact gun control by alleging threats posed by ghost guns, it was the ATF that filed a motion to dismiss the case. Here is what the ATF said in January of 2021, just a couple of months ago. While any specific crime is a tragedy, 8 such crimes out of the 1.1 million violent crimes committed in the relevant 6-year period is a far cry from an overwhelming wave that would cause a state injury sufficient to confer standing. Nor can California plausibly plead that these crimes would have occurred with traditional serialized firearms, or would not have occurred with traditional serialized firearms. Oh, dude, thank you very much. Appreciate that very much. The ATF must live by its own words and recognize the constitutional right of the United States citizens to craft their own firearms to keep themselves safe. No proposed gun control law, including the proposed gun regulation of so-called ghost guns, will stop criminals from being able to obtain and use firearms in the commissions of crimes. So like I said, this last section of this one is a boilerplate. I really like it because of the part where they talk about how California, along with a private organization that hates our rights, sued the ATF. And we're basically told by the ATF, you don't have standing to sue us. And now we're sitting here having a comment period on that exact same situation. So Nighthawk Medic, thanks for that. Threw a $50 super chat in. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I'm not sponsored by anybody, so that helps us to keep going. It says they seem to be holding on to these 2 comment periods, waiting for the new hero to arrive. Send as many comments to your congressman regarding the upcoming head of the ATF. That's a great point. I'm glad you said that. These are red herrings, right? These are distractions. They're dangerous distractions. They're hazards that, like they're IEDs, right? They're very dangerous blockages in the road, but we need to move on past them. Somehow we need to have a couple of people disengage the convoy and disarm these. And so we're attempting to do by commenting and paying attention to them. But this is by no means the battle. This is a couple of IEDs on the road to the battle. I agree with you 100%. People, how hard is it to wake up in the morning, have a cup of coffee or a cup of water with some lemon in it, which is probably better for you, and then, or some little bit of orange or something made in America, and then make a phone call and call those Congress people. And then if DJ's out there, he'll give us the phone number. I don't have it right now in front of me. But you call the switchboard, you tell them what state you're in. They hook you up to the representative. You give them your position that the ATF nominee is absurd and that they should not support them. And then head over and make a couple of comments. They're looking at the number of comments for sure and the rate, right? I'm sure they're looking at some, like the number of them coming in over time, right? If it's just a big spurt here and there, then they're going to blow it off probably to being, a reaction to what somebody said in the media. But if it happens consistently over time, then that sends a very strong political message. So great. Thank you for the money, for sure, for the support, and for all you're doing out there for others as well. And then for that comment, because it's a good one. So let's read some of these comments. That's a bunch are coming in. Welcome everybody for showing up in the morning. Patriot out there. Daily Baller. Oh, that was that one. We've only had one today. I've only read that, not that many though. But that one was a boilerplate. So they just clicked on that from somewhere. If your boiler had a leak, you'd probably appreciate the boilerplate. Yeah, exactly. As usual, they're changing the lexicon to support an agenda. Extremists equals likely criminal. Ghost gun equals pending criminal action. Oh, for sure. And, obviously they're sneaking extremists in there intentionally. So we're seeing that one. I think it's an attempt to change the narrative or whatever they're trying to do, change the window. All right, so then we'll keep going. These are the comments from the redefinition of firearms. Now this one is completely boilerplate. Just all they did is hit copy and paste. So that's the second one that's like that. So that's two of them that are copy and paste boilerplate versus one copy and paste boilerplate on their side. Still, I'd rather see that kind of ratio of boilerplate than any other kind of situation. Not every other, but most other situation. Okay, so next up is comment 83384. Why change the definition of frames? 80% are built by hobbyists, not by criminals. This would make law-abiding gun owners who have built 80% criminals. Also, if you set the limit at 80%, a company can just make 79% lowers and have the same things happen. Also, many people who own uppers do not have serial numbers on them if you plan on making uppers serialized also. These only affect people following the law, as criminals do not follow these new gun laws. I'm not commenting, but I think there's, you hear criminals don't follow laws a lot, but I think that's profound in a lot of ways. And they want to drop laws down as if there's no consequences, because there's no consequences to those dropping the laws down, I guess. So yeah, they have no care. They're going to drop another law down. Sounds great to me. Drop another law down. So I think that's, I don't think it's going to absorb, but it'll hit somebody sometime, I think. Anyway, I'm not commenting. Next up is comment 83385. I am writing in support of the ATF's proposed rule that would help stem the rise of unregulated ghost guns. The proposed rule is a win for public safety and a loss for any criminals or extremists who wanted to buy untraceable guns with no background checks and no questions asked. That's weird. So why did they cut out at a time when extremism and gun violence is rising? That's weird. Do they not care about extremism? I feel like this comment doesn't even care about extremism. All right, next up is comment 83502. As a former police officer, I used to enforce the law. I am not too sure what the ATF does anymore. It is not our job to create laws. There's a judicial branch for a reason. Congress are elected by the people. If the police get to create their own law on the go, then what stopped them from being rogue? And it seems like every time a Democrat is in office, the police seem to have the mentality of us against them. We all know this scorecard will not stand in court, as it is not a law. ATF opinion is not law. Intent is the most hardest thing to prove in court, as we do not possess the power to read minds. Interesting. There's Crump out there. Good morning. Next up, we're reading the redefinition of firearms comments right now. Looks like we're probably about 10 or so into the last ones. Looks like they've been coming in at about 1,000 a day, and suspiciously they're what do you call it? Like they're accepting. Can't think of the word. Anyway, they're allowing most of them, which is weird. Usually they don't push that many through. Let's see. So this one is boilerplate from. Wait a minute. Actually, it might not be boilerplate. I might read this one. It seems sometimes I think they're boilerplate when they have the RE thing here, but this one doesn't look like the typical paragraph. So we'll just read it. Comment 83510. I concur with the statements made by the GOA, but I guess it is boilerplate. I concur with the statements made by the GOA below and agree that the ATF must immediately withdraw its proposed rule ATF 2021 R-05. So let's see. All right. I did not remember this one, so I don't know where this came from. I don't think this isn't their click a button thing, so maybe this is from an email or something. So let's read it. RE ATF 2021 R-05. Since the founding of the Republic, Americans have made firearms at home. In the 21st century, steel and wood have given way to aluminum and plastic. This new rule by the ATF attempts to regulate the making of firearms by private persons who are not FFL holders and to regulate those guns which are made within a private residence for personal use. The Gun Control Act's central premise has been based on Congress's authority to regulate interstate commerce. A private party making a firearm for their own use has never been subject to regulation. This proposed rule is a radical and unneeded departure from this historical precedent. To underscore this point, page 36 of the proposed rule even says, clarifying this issue is needed to deter the increased sale or distribution of unlicensed and unregulated, partially complete or unassembled frames or receivers often sold within parts kits that readily can be completed and assembled to a functional state. The definitions being proposed in this rule are unlawful because Congress has not taken any action to regulate home-built firearms braces, or the records that must be kept by licensed dealers. This proposal reeks of agency overreach. Even though the proposed rule lists several firearms by name that had not been invented when most of the current laws were even enacted, there's nothing to prevent an inventor from inventing and selling a new type of firearm frame or even a slide after the proposed rule takes effect, which would make at least part of these new rules obsolete. If the job of Congress is to write agencies it is the job of Congress to write laws and federal agencies to enforce them. The proposed rule appears as illegitimate lawmaking because it states that it is in some way in response to the manner in which courts have ruled on the AR-15 type firearm receiver. If a change is needed in the law, then it is properly the job of Congress to change the law. It is not the job of a regulatory agency. For these reasons, I am respectfully requesting that you do not enact these rules. We wrote a bunch of different ones, and you click the button, you get a randomly picked. Oh, okay, I didn't realize that one. So that's pretty cool. So that's probably why I'm having difficulty trying to keep up with which ones are boilerplates or where the boilerplates are coming from. So that makes a lot of sense. And I think I can tell because they start off with this. Let's see. So next up is 83518. This is already going to be interesting. I am a public school teacher in Chicago Public Schools, and I am writing today to express my support for the proposed ghost guns rule at ATF. As a teacher, I worry always about a school shooting. As you know, ghost guns are hard to trace and easier to get for people who should not have guns and cannot pass a background check. All honest citizens who respect our country's laws can, without much trouble, pass background checks if they feel the need to purchase a gun. Thank you for accepting my comment. I feel that the passage of this rule, as written and proposed, will make schools safer for our students who should not have to worry about being shot in the classroom. I don't want to say that there should be attention given to people who have, is it hyperpolia, whatever it's called, the fear of guns to the point where they seriously think that this ATF law is so good that it's going to make schools safer. That person, I don't think they should be driving, let alone in charge of other people's children. It seems kind of like delusional, but I'm not commenting. Next up is 8. This is the third out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Third out of 8 that have been pro ATF infringement, like pro jackboot. I'm writing in support of the ATF's proposed rule that would help stem the rise of unregulated ghost guns. Ghost guns may be the scariest and fastest growing of gun safety. Oh my goodness, ghost guns may be the scariest and fastest growing gun safety threat in the country. I just think I seen a ghost gun run down the street, allowing anyone to make an untraceable weapon in less than an hour. We need to regulate ghost guns to save lives. There's a bunch of them today, so I'm adding that to the pile of delusional, deranged psychopaths. Am I allowed to call them psychopaths? I'm not commenting. There's another one. So there's no reason to comment because look at how many comments there are. These are all positive. These are all telling the ATF to get bent. I am writing in support of the ATF's proposed rule that would help stem the rise of unregulated ghost guns. This one has everything in here. Ghost guns may be the scariest and fastest growing threat in this country, allowing anyone to make an untraceable gun in less than an hour. They have emerged as the weapon of choice for violent criminals, gun traffickers, dangerous extremists, not just regular extremists, but the dangerous extremists, and then other people legally prohibited from buying guns. The underregulation of these core parts have made ghost guns the fastest growing gun safety problem facing our country. Oh my goodness, I had no idea. I'm putting that in my pile of delusionals. All right, next over here. Oh, look at this. There's no reason to write comments because it's being taken care of for us. Other people are writing the comments and it's going to be taken care of. Other people do this. Those activists do this. That's their job. Comment 83516. I support the ATF. Sorry, something got stuck in my throat. I support the ATF proposed ghost guns rule and urge you to finalize this common sense rule. This one's not boilerplate, people. They wrote this one. As you know, gun manufacturers currently ship these unfinished guns to enable them to sell to people who don't want to pass a background check. Those sons of bitches. These guns are then hard to track and easier to get. If you're an honest, law-abiding citizen, you got nothing to fear from a background check. If you are not, you shouldn't have a gun to begin with. Thank you for the proposed rule. My teenage sister was abducted by a stranger and shot 3 times and left for dead. She survived a long hospital stay and can never have children. So my family has remained deeply concerned about the insane proliferation of guns in our country. Adopt the rule as it is written. Wow, that's all over the place. So there you go. But, don't write any comments because only the crazies write comments. Oh, man, let's see. Comment 83542. I am commenting in support of the Department of Justice proposed rule to amend ATF's definition of firearm and frame a receiver so that all privately made firearms carry serial numbers and are regulated the same as other firearms, in particular by requiring a criminal background check. This proposed rule would stop the proliferation of deadly and untraceable guns by keeping them out of the hands of individuals prohibited from possessing firearms and allowing privately made firearms recovered in crime scenes to be traced back to their last legal owner. Although Connecticut is one of the few states to regulate ghost... Oh no, it says, okay, it is. One of the few states to regulate ghost guns, okay. Without federal action, our law is easily evaded. Thank you for taking actions to make Americans safer from gun violence. There's nothing to worry about. You don't have to worry about making a comment. Other people will do it. The government will just be right or whatever. All right, let's go to 83528. With its definitions of partially complete receiver and readily ATF 2021 R-05 would codify arbitrarily and capricious classification standard. The vague definition of partially complete receiver contains still more vague definitions like clearly identifiable, unfinished component part of a weapon, critical stage of manufacture. Okay, so this is a massive boilerplate, I guess. Unfortunately, it never really does say don't do this. It just says a bunch of stuff, but I've read that one a couple of times already. Wow, all right. This one's interesting. So this one will be 83532. Oh, it looks like people are saying stuff over here. We go to different ones. We keep adding new ones. Right on. Autophobia. Is that what it is? I think it was Cooper that invented the word. Sounds like the ATF wrote that one. Yeah, some of these do sound pretty weird. I prefer undangerous extremists. I just don't. We shouldn't have any extremists. Extremists are super bad. Everyone should just be a norm. Everyone should just be a norm in the middle. Let's see. Yeah, that is. That's sad. I'm sorry for some people, but there's a whole lot of weird stuff happening in the world, right? Most commonly found guns in a police lockup: granddad shotgun, 32 caliber receiver. Yeah, I've seen lists that looked more like 1911 Smith & Wesson Model 10, Glock 19, basically the most common guns, and then probably now like Smith & Wesson M&P would be in there. But yeah, definitely things like shotguns and 22 caliber single shot bolt actions are always in there. Never had police department tell me they found 80% Glock. Well, the problem is that they'll take. There's no separate thing for 80%. They're too new and they don't really. Well, they're not really used. So, what they'll do is they'll use the antis will use statistics that include all non-firearms or all firearms without receivers. I mean, without serial numbers. So basically, what was in the criminal records was like somebody who removed the serial number from a firearm, or potentially a firearm that was never, that was just built, maybe like a zip gun or something, and they would put it in that classification. So they're counting all zip guns and then all, like, what do you call that? Altered? No, there's a name for that where you try to scribble off the serial number. They're counting all of those guns and then saying, all of these now are a threat because they're all ghost guns. But it's win-win. When you don't have a real definition of a thing, then it's a boogeyman. You can give everybody that definition, right? You can put everything under that definition, I guess. So what is this? More than half of our pro ATF? Yeah, at this point, we're looking at, well, they're not pro ATF because the ATF is just like a ball of unflavored jello that sucks and it's like getting old and drying out. So it's not appealing or anybody wants to be pro ATF. It's just that they're pro infringement. They're pro using the ATF as a weapon against other people. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are anti, like pro infringement, out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. So yeah, this has been like 8 have been good and 7 have been pro infringement. That's pretty bad. We need the pro ones to win the ATF bingo. Yeah, exactly. The brand that his phone mouse is a Sky. What police department? Anyway, so next up is a long one, and it looks like it says the guy's name on it too. Hey, DJs out there now, if you would throw the number up for the to call representatives and let people voice their opinion on the ATF nominee. Thanks, if you got it handy. So next is comment 83532. The Constitution is clear that the right of the people to keep and bear arms should not be infringed. The excessive regulation and rulemaking around firearms has not had any grand effect of peace, safety, or crime reduction in our streets or in our states. This will further hamper law-abiding citizens from illegally and lawfully possessing the means to protect themselves and their families. Those who seek to break the law, sell, make, and use firearms for unsavory or criminal purposes will do so even after these rules change, thus leaving the law-abiding at a disadvantage. I say put more effort into training law enforcement, into actually allowing your law enforcement officers to enforce the law, into supporting said law enforcement, into training civilians in proper firearms use, storage, carry practices, and make an effort to reduce drug use instead of offering safe injection sites like Seattle does. The power of these United States of America are in the people. The people must be uplifted in their own desires and intentions if we are to lift this nation out of the mire. It is our hearts that must be transformed. Too long have our children been told that they are the product of random chance. Too long have they been told that they come from nothing and will go to nothing. They have begun to believe that both they and their neighbor are nothing. If nothing kills nothing to preserve nothing, has nothing wrong happened? We have ousted the idea that people were created by a loving God for a purpose. God sent Jesus Christ, his own son, to pay for the sins of all humankind. He came to remove the guilt. All right. He came along the dead some promises. It goes into a bunch of stuff here. And then for the record, if someone's going to kill me, I'd much rather be shot to death than cut or beaten to death. Don't you think? And then he signs it. So I don't know what you think about that one. That could be a whole nother one. I don't think it matters. They're going to count it as a, anti-infringement, I suspect. Let's see. So next one is 83536. This is unconstitutional, and I do not agree with this. That's best one all day, right? We're not commenting though. Next up is 83540. Right on, thanks. And Patriot threw it up there too. Okay, so next one up is 83540. I am commenting in support of the Department of Justice's proposed rule to amend the ATF's definition of firearm and frame a receiver so that all privately made firearms carry serial numbers and are regulated the same as other firearms, in particular by requiring a criminal background check. So this one is the exact clone copy of that other one, but it's keeping the ratio of like basically 1-to-1 anti-freedom to anti-ATF bullshit. So here we go, another one, 83414. Please stop spreading ghost guns. Please do whatever you can to ensure safety. We lost someone extremely special to gun violence. Please do whatever you can to encourage opportunity and education, not guns. So I'm putting that one over in the pile. So next up is 83398. The ATF has become a Marxist entity bent on brainwashing. ATF has become a Marxist entity bent on destroying the Constitution and our Second A rights at the behest of an ultra-liberal socialist president. He is so impaired that many are scared to death that his acting VP will end up in the Oval Office. We as a country are headed down the path to communism. God help us all. Oh my goodness. So next up is, I'm trying not to comment here. Next up is 83406. I am vehemently opposed to ATF 2021-R-05. It is yet another encroachment on American civil liberties and represents the absolute worst tendencies in government to overstep their bounds and pursue agenda-driven political efforts. I don't know if this is boilerplate, and I'm not commenting, but that's one of the best first paragraphs I've read, and I've been reading a lot of these. This proposed change will make de facto criminals out of ordinary law-abiding citizens. The vague and unclear language in the proposal seems purposely intended to allow ATF to pursue arbitrary enforcement standards and radically expand the scope and impact of their activities. This proposed change will not only impact citizens negatively, but will also harm businesses that are engaged in lawful commerce and criminalize their actions. This seems like a tactic from Soviet Russia and is befitting our American system of governance, where the protections of the individual are enshrined in the ideals of our constitutional republic. I urge the ATF to reconsider this action in the strongest terms possible, and for the agency to realize this radical approach to policy will be met at every turn with opposition by legions of patriotic American citizens advocating for Second Amendment rights. This vague definition of partially complete receiver contains still more vague definitions like clearly identifiable, unfinished component part of a weapon, critical stage of manufacture, sufficiently complete to function, and primordial state. The new definition of readily contains so many factors and of such ambiguous weight and meaning that the test can only be meant to confuse and intimidate non-FFL entities before ATF's awesome authority. The multi-factor test for readily amounts to lawless Caesarism and invests the ATF's director with more power than Congress has authorized. ATF would like to legitimize its wholly arbitrary sample submission process, which is not derived from the Gun Control Act, and which the ATF emphasizes does not even obligate them to respond. This is a farcical farcical, and irregular process that lacks any pretense of Fifth Amendment protection and by literal definition gives the director unlimited discretion. I don't know, I'm pretty sure some of that was boilerplate, but I'm not commenting. All right, next up is, let's see, we got some more comments coming in. Toast doesn't spread well on toast. I don't know about that. You're saying they're better than avocado or peanut butter? Honorees out there, check on the Future Felons of America patches and shirts on Blacksmith. Oh, okay. I think I remember that one from one of your shows. Oh, that one there, the Caesarism one. It's a good one, dude. I like that first paragraph. All right, next up is 83411. ATF 2021 R-05. My name is James, last name is his business, and I live at his business, Tennessee. This proposal is unconstitutional and just plain wrong. United States citizens have always been able to build their own firearms since this country was founded. Citizens don't need to be turned into criminals. There needs to be harder on criminals, not on law-abiding citizens. Citizens follow the law. Criminals don't care about any laws. This proposal is a waste of hard-working, law-abiding citizens' money and does nothing to stop gun crime. It will be fought in court, and the Constitution will overturn this proposal. I like every single thing about this one, and we don't mention enough that this is costing us money. This is costing us money. This is costing us money, and there's no need for this. It's costing us money. But, I mean, that's not the only argument, but come on, this is costing us money. All right, next up is, farcical. I'm not used to reading words that I'm not used to reading. Next up is 83415. As a lifelong firearms owner, I want to voice my strong opposition to the proposed changes the ATF would make to the definition of what exactly makes a firearm or receiver a particular identifier for a firearm. As an executive branch agency, the ATF should not be creating new laws, which is effectively what this rule does. I strongly oppose the rule's new definition of firearm. Such decisions should be left to the people's representatives in Congress. This definition of firearm is vague, dangerous, and will sow confusion throughout the firearms industry. As a law-abiding gun owner, I am concerned that this new rule will make it impossible for me to know whether any given firearm or product is legal. I don't want to go to jail just because a product that was legal is suddenly declared illegal based on an arbitrary decision by ATF leadership. As such, I strongly oppose this new rule. The vast majority of gun owners are law-abiding citizens. This new definition would cause many of our law-abiding citizens to be criminals. This new rule is ambiguous and gives ATF too much power in determining what a firearm is. You should be clear and concise like it is right now. Please leave the definition to Congress. I mean, I'm not commenting, so there you go, no commenting. No, people don't vote for the ATF. All we vote for is our Congress, and then the head of the executive branch, which is the president. The vice president comes along with the president, and the rest of the executive branch is appointed by the president, right? Like a bunch of secretaries and stuff, and then heads of the various departments. But all the different departments and bureaus and different agencies and stuff, those terms of service typically overlap and typically extend through multiple administrations. So they'll overlap lots and lots and lots of Congress people's time in Congress and many presidents usually, unless those people are jockeying around for some kind of bureaucratic position, in which case they're like jumping from job to job, then they might not stay in a position as long. But tons of bureaucrats just love to find some place to sit and make money, make that big government money. And then they just sit around most of the time like a tick, just sitting there sucking blood off the host. But, every once in a while they're a tick with a bunch of disease and they're sucking blood off the host, but they're also getting their goo all over everything and festering diseases and being horrible and creating cancer probably. Those are the ones we need to get rid of. All right, so next up is 83397. The BATF is supposed to be an ally of the American citizen through the collaborative effort to maintain human rights, including the right to self-defense and civil defense. The Bay ATF, ruled by bureaucracy, is a subjugation of our human rights expressed in the Second Amendment of the Constitution. The Byzantine and often draconian policies, read, not law, imposed on the American citizens create a Kafkaesque, oh my God, seriously, for the 42% of the U.S. households that possess firearms. The BATF has a clear choice here. Either become the ally of the American citizen, or the BATF can take further steps towards the establishment of an oppressive Stasi-like police force and gulags camps across our once free nation. The fact that American citizens must explain this to the BATF is heartbreaking. Do the right thing. Honor your commitment to the American people and the U.S. Constitution you are sworn to uphold. Dr. Christopher, his name is his business, he says author and gun owner. And he uses a lot of big fancy words. So next up is 83400. Please support ATF 2021 R-05. Ghost guns are a menace to our society. Guns that cannot be regulated arrive in the hands of dangerous people who do harm to our public. Enough is enough. Stand tall and help protect the citizens of the USA. Thank you. Well, now you got the last one, just as like a kick in the eye with a sharp stick there. That was a lot of bullshit mixed in with the ones. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 25. There's no way to do the numbers on that, but that's a pretty high ratio. That's the most pro-infringement, pro-jackbootery bullshit I've ever, and I've been doing this for a while. That's the most I've ever come up with. And it's in the redefinition of firearms. How scary is that? The one that our side isn't paying attention to, I think. But that's scary. That is super scary. I wonder why they're over there, what am I can't think of the word? How come they're allowing that many of the comments to come through? Maybe it's because there's so many of the other ones this time. I don't know. Should we keep going? We're about 47 minutes in. I usually go for an hour, but we've got a lot of people watching. If you want, I'll dig into the pistol brace ones. That was 25 of the redefinition of firearms receivers. And yeah, that was, in my opinion, a bunch of bullshit. So I'm saying it. Yeah, that's a lot of them. All right, so I'll just start reading these, and then you guys tell me if you don't want. You can just leave, I guess, and I'll figure out when everybody leaves that we're reading these things. So we already opened them up. I'm going to just go ahead and close the other ones, I guess. I've been perplexed. I've never had this many garbage ones. Now, a couple of them were boilerplates, but I'm going to leave them open just for now. Lock the revolving door while they're in it. If I was in charge of the ATF, I don't think I could be arsed with this. I'd just go nap in my office. If you're in charge of the ATF, yeah, you pretty much should just do everything you can to get rid of the NFA. The Gun Control Act falls with it, and then just refund everybody's money for the tax stamps and FFL fees, and then dismantle everything. Apologize for the waste of paper, and remove the agency. Let's see, ironically, there is a group attempting to remove the protection these people and other government agencies have against being sued. We can learn from them. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I haven't seen that yet. Let's see, Patriots saying, I suggest people start sharing how many are actually pro-infringement. Done a lot of comments, and I didn't know. Yeah, me either. This is the first time I'm realizing it too. So I do these usually as a way to recharge my batteries. This is like just getting me mad, right? Not really recharging, nothing. All right, so now we're going to go into the pistol brace ones. I've opened up 25 of the most recent pistol brace ones. There's a lot more pistol brace ones being submitted. There we go. And being approved. Now I can figure out the words. A way bigger ratio than there's ever been before. 118,000 received, 110,000 approved. They've only approved like a third or a half was a lot before. Now they're up at like 70 something percent. It's weird. Anyway, so we're digging into comment 109,415, which is boilerplate, so I'm not going to read it. It is, I'm guessing, over Americas, but there's, oh, what is all this about? Oh, what's all this about? They're horking me. Oh, look how I've been horked on a couple of these. Why was I horked on these? I'm going to refresh. Oh, look at, I overhorked their system. They're going to call me an extremist because I opened up too many tabs at once. I'm a government extremist. I tried to take down the regulations.gov or whatever it's called. All right, so, oh man, I think this one's boilerplate. But I'm going to read it anyway just because we haven't read one in a while. Comment 109,431, RE-ATF 2021 R-08. The ATF must immediately withdraw its proposed rules to criminalize pistol braces. According to your own reports, 3 million pistol braces have been sold since 2013. This new rule would make each and every one of those devices worthless and a felony if not registered. You would be turning millions of otherwise law-abiding gun owners into felons overnight. Moreover, your own research shows that this proposed rule would cost the gun industry and everyday gun owners who are already struggling to navigate through our country's economic hardship tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in conversions, taxes, and destruction of their own property. In fact, the new ATF test to determine if a pistol counts as a pistol is unfeasible for millions of law-abiding citizens. It appears that ATF has intentionally designed its factoring criteria for rifle-barreled weapons with accessories commonly referred to as stabilizing braces to effect a complete ban of every pistol-based firearm currently on the market. Reviewing the ATF's proposed worksheet that would be used to classify firearms as either legal pistols or illegal short-barreled rifles, literally no pistol-braced firearms would count as a pistol. Yet most pistol-braced firearms would fail Section 1 of the worksheet because all but the shortest AR-style firearms are now over ATF's new 26-inch limit on pistols' maximum length. Moreover, Section 2, virtually all, if not all, pistol braces on the market, including those previously approved for sale by ATF, would receive more than four allowed points, meaning the firearm would be classified as a short-barreled rifle. And who would this proposal even help? The ATF has arbitrarily decided that pistol AR is a game, despite criminals actually preferring handguns to rifles. Your proposed rules would do nothing but crush law-abiding gun owners, trample upon our Second Amendment rights, and risk turning us into felons with the stroke of a pen. I demand the ATF remove its proposed rule on pistol braces immediately. So that's definitely GOA. Oh, let's see, there must have been a recent Independence Day push for tyranny. That could be. That's the thing. When you see a bunch of them like that, all in the first, that was the most recent 25. So there could have been, some sort of an urge somewhere, some sort of a request for action or something, and people took them up. I'm yawning here. We're going to play a commercial while I yawn and drink some coffee. Funny, their opening is a whole bunch of gun stuff and they never even go shooting it. All right, so that's the best show you could watch. Live show, that's the best live show that's on the internet every Sunday in the evening. Locked and Loaded Latinos. I watched everything. That is the best two-way live conversation you'll see each week. All right, so next up is comment 109,443, which is boilerplate, the one we just read, in fact, but there's a paragraph in front of it. Banning these braces would disproportionately affect wounded veterans and disabled citizens that still maintain the right to defend themselves in accordance with the Second Amendment of our Constitution. All right, next up is 109,378. It's a long one, but I don't think it's the boilerplate. I'm writing to oppose your proposed rule change regarding pistol braces. The proposed rule change is designated ATF 2021 R-08. Your proposal fails both in principle and in details. The rule change should be rejected. In the introduction, you write of firearms that are dangerous and unusual and are gangster guns. You also write of guns intended to be fired with only one hand on the gun. On principle alone, these arguments go against your cause. Dangerous and unusual does not apply. The braces are made for pistols that are not concealable, so the braces do not facilitate unlawful concealed carry. The braces themselves are too big to conceal. When paired with a pistol, the combination may allow for somewhat more discreet carry, but no one can use this combination for unlawful concealed carry. Nothing about the pistol brace makes pistols more powerful or able to fire faster. The braces do not contribute to pistols being dangerous or unusual. Gangster guns were an outgrowth of prohibition. Prohibition ended many decades ago. The gangsters who use these guns are only figures in history. This reference only shows the proposed rule is based on dang it, I know the word, I just don't know how to say it. Anachronistic rationale? I don't know it. The overwhelming majority of the people who prefer these pistols today are good citizens who like firearms that can be packed more easily. These people have no interest in shootouts over alcohol distribution. Many of these good citizens are active duty or reserve military members and veterans. The modern Al Capone who wants to eliminate rival gang members will use a regular stock on a pistol because he's already planning to commit murder. Another anachronism, that's the word, right? Anachronism is the insistence that handguns are to be fired with only one hand. For only 50 years, most training on handgun use has involved both hands for most shooting. Generations of law enforcement have been taught to shoot duty handguns with both hands. They, in turn, have taught that technique to civilians who have sought training in the use of handguns, insisting that the use of two hands negates a firearm from being a pistol is foolish. In terms of details, many of your arguments are simply wrong. You argue that an adjustable brace is primarily for the purpose of using the brace as a stock. You argue that adjustability has no real purpose for someone firing a pistol with only one hand. Again, the single-handed argument is an anachronism, I've mastered that word now, that weakens your case. Beyond that, the notion that everyone who is going to use a brace will be comfortable with the same length of brace is foolish. They're foolish, we know that. Shooters come in all shapes and sizes. Some are going to be more comfortable with a brace that rests near the elbow. Others are going to be more comfortable with a brace that rests near the wrist. Making braces adjustable allows manufacturers to market a single device that will be useful to a wide range of shooters. You argue that a biped negates the need for a brace, and therefore suggests that a firearm will be used as a rifle. That argument is also foolish. Precision shooters have been using bipods and other kinds of supports to make precision shots with handguns for decades. A bipod is an entirely reasonable accessory for a pistol. You argue that flip-up sights are evidence that a pistol is going to be fired as a rifle. Again, this argument is nonsensical. These sights are perfectly acceptable for pistol shooting. The modern rail at the top of many pistols gives owner the option of traditional scopes, modern optics with dots or holograms, or some form of traditional sights without lenses. That many of the traditional sights made for these systems will also flip down does not alter their use in any way. You argue that hand stop along the front rail makes the pistol into a rifle because rifles were traditionally fired with two hands. Again, this argument is anachronistic. Many generations of law enforcement have been taught to shoot a handgun with both hands. This teaching is filtered to the civilian community. The primary exception has been when people need to use one hand to hold a flashlight, but even then, the proper technique was to use the wrist of the flashlight hand to brace the wrist of the shooting hand. That is the preferred technique for some of the pistols the preferred technique for the use of some pistols for the support hand in front of the trigger is irrelevant. These rules will not make Americans safer. That one or two mass shooters have used a pistol braced pistol doesn't change the fact that the overall effect of these devices to give American citizens more choices for exercising their rights to self-defense and the enjoyment of their shooting sports. I have critiqued only a few of the problems with this proposed rule, but these problems are enough to show that the entire rule is needless, arbitrary, and poorly thought. The entire rule and the ideas behind it should be rejected. Boy, I'm so glad I read that one. That's a really good one. DJ saying some of the templates are getting irksome with their repetition. Saying play bingo with them. Made bingo cards with ATF comments on them. Oh, is that what that is? Okay, that makes way more sense. Okay, yeah, you sent me this thing and I was like, I don't understand this. We're definitely going to play ATF bingo then. Yeah, okay. I get it now. Now I get it. Arbitrary, like what an average person says in this context, really, it isn't really, in my opinion, it just might seem so. I seriously doubt there's nothing but random. I don't know what that means. Don't GJS in the comments. Okay, so here's the thing. What are we going to do with you're saying what the thing? What are we going to not have them? I mean, there's the thing. Some people ain't going to be able to write some people ain't going to have these weird words. Like, what is this guy, anarchinistic or whatever? Like, the hell, not everybody's got that word to say. Not everybody's got the time to say it. I think having a mix is good, right? So if it was only boilerplate, then I'd be concerned. But the fact that there's a lot of boilerplates is better than no boilerplates. And I do like that they're mixing up their boilerplates a little bit. But yeah, that would be interesting to, I know that gun owners have done a couple of things kind of, Gun Owners of America, I should say, have made videos where they specifically talked about the boilerplates, and it was basically saying that the boilerplate, it was letting people know that their concerns about the boilerplates, you don't have to worry about it, that the ATF does count the boilerplates, that they've written them in ways, so that they work for the way they're supposed to be used, and that they are convinced that they're being counted. So anyway, I've heard them do that, and that was mainly to, I suspect, just to, let people give people whatever concerns they might have about it. But it would be interesting to have some sort of a more longer conversation about the different boilerplates, how they fit into the bigger strategy. And yeah, I don't think anybody would suggest that it's that the boilerplates are the only, but it's it's something in the arsenal for sure. But I definitely like the, now I understand what you're doing with the ATF bingo thing. We'll do that in the future for sure. Let's see, please leave, and this was comment 109-385. Please leave pistol braces as is. They serve a variety of purposes to the handicap and training younger people and smaller framed women. Oh, there you go. Be sexist right away. Is this boilerplate? It is. I'm pretty sure it's boilerplate, so I'm not reading it. And here's the thing. Boilerplate makes it so that I don't have to read every one of these comments. Next up is comment 109-393, which is boilerplate, but I'm going to read the paragraph in the front that's not boilerplate. This proposed ban on pistol braces is an unaltered infringement of the Second Amendment as it was written and originally intended. The use of pistol braces on AR-15 pistol-type weapons has added a new dimension to personal protection and home defense capabilities of responsible gun owners, and to, in effect, remove said right to utilize such a device will undoubtedly result not only in the prosecution of otherwise upstanding citizens, it will result in those that depend on pistol brace-type devices to effectively utilize AR-15 pattern weapons to lose that ability and thus access the rights granted onto them by the Second Amendment in the United States Constitution. That's one sentence. So there you go. I'm not commenting. The rest of it is boilerplate from GOA. Next up is comment 109-388. I wish to express my dissatisfaction with the proposed new regulations and base my dissatisfaction on two major points. First, the regulations as illustrated by the proposed worksheet is so vague and subject to individual interpretation as to be useless. In fact, the proposed regulations go so far as to say that even if a firearm were to pass muster according to the worksheet, then an arbitrary standard could be applied to overrule the determination of the worksheet. If this is so, why even bother with the worksheet? Second, due to years of varying interpretations of law, literally millions of pistol braces are currently legally passed by American citizens. Passage of the proposed regulation would quite literally make millions of otherwise law-abiding, law-supporting citizens into felons. The enforcement nightmare would be staggering. The image of government agents going door-to-door checking for previously legal firearms accessories is revolting. It is my belief that many more Americans' lives will be lost in a futile attempt to eliminate these devices from citizens' possession than will ever be saved by the elimination of these devices from currently lawful possession. It is a solution in search of a problem. How many pistol braces have been used for unlawful purposes? Will a criminal offender intent on murder really be bothered with a technical weapons violation? Instead of creating a constitutional crisis, administrative and enforcement nightmare, it would be effort much better spent on enforcing current laws and regulations which would actually address current problems, not problems created due to some unfounded hysteria. Ooh, I'm getting tired. My mouth is getting tired from saying these words. All right, next up is 109405. Which is boilerplate from GOA, but it has a paragraph in front of it. Because when you go to GOA, let's just go to GOA for the heck of it. Gun owners of the United States of America. I feel like if they're going to call themselves gun owners of America, then they should open themselves up to Central and South America, to be technically accurate, or rename it the Gun Owners of the United States of America. But anyway, when you go to Gun Owners of America, you can go to Action Center. There's lots of other things. So when you go to the Action Center, you got your national, state level. Why don't we go to national? There's some other stuff there as well. We got your Chipman. Let's not slow down on the urge senators to oppose Chipman, because he's an asshole and they're pushing it. And then what are we going to get? A thing here for the stopped braced gun ban or whatever. I'm going to click on that. It's going to give us a subject, which we don't see when we're doing these. This is where people can put in that additional paragraph if you want. And then here's the boilerplate that we keep talking about. RE, ATF, blah, blah, blah. Now here's the thing. You can go in here and change this. This is what I used to do. I used to go in and like delete some of this. Oh, wait, back in the day, you used to be able to delete some. Maybe you can't anymore. All right, you can't anymore. But so I guess you're going to get that at the bottom. But you can add your own stuff at the top. You add your own stuff in here. You click boom, and now it's entered. You don't have to go over to whatever.gov. I'm pretty sure they're not doing that for free. That costs some money, so they're paying for that. Gun Owners America is paying to be hooked up with regulations more than likely. But that's how we get these that have the paragraph at the beginning. All right, so 109.405. Nothing has changed. I haven't read this one yet. Nothing has changed in regards to the functionality of what is currently classified as a pistol. Yet the ATF is attempting to manipulate through reclassification to make pistol braces a felony to use. Okay, so they just punctuated that weird, but I'm going to say that. Nothing has changed in regards to the functionality of what is currently classified as a pistol. Yet the ATF is attempting to manipulate through reclassification to make pistol braces a felony to use. Since they were purchased and are being used under completely legal constraints, it is not only wrong to do this, but unconstitutional. For these reasons, the current proposed rule should be removed from consideration immediately. I really like when they say stuff like, should be removed from consideration immediately with an exclamation point, because that's putting us in the position of authority, which is where we are, in the position of authority to our employees who suck at being employees right now. All right, next up, and then the rest of it was boilerplate. Patriot just commented twice, right on. Every time you comment, it counters one of those anti ones, right? guess what? We're going to go watch another commercial so that I can drink a little bit more coffee.
The DC Project, 50 women descending on our nation's capital to put a face on the Second Amendment.
For me, the Second Amendment is about family heritage.
To defend against hate crimes.
My right to protect my family.
Gives me the right to decide when I need protection.
Because you should never be denied a chance to protect yourself and your loved ones.
My firearm levels the playing field against someone trying to hurt me.
It means survival.
My responsibility.
I am my own first responder.
Because some believe no means yes.
It's a peace of mind.
Provide food for my family.
Recreation and sport.
Confidence that I can take care of myself.
My right to life.
It's my liberty.
I refuse to be a victim.
The protection of my children.
Confidence in our nation's present and future.
Legacy.
Legacy.
And
my birthright as an American.
And mine too.
You get an extra 5 points if you can name every single chick in that commercial. All right, so, well, with their actual names, like identify them, I guess. We just name them. Anybody can name new names. All right, so next up is 109409. Let's see. A pistol brace makes a firearm more accurate and easier to handle. Therefore, safer if ever needed. Common sense 2A. And then it goes on to have another is it boilerplate? Wait a minute. It is boilerplate, but we haven't read this one in a while, so I'm reading it. RE ATF 2021 R-08. ATF must immediately withdraw its proposed rule entitled Factoring Criteria for Firearms with Attached Stabilizing Braces. While ATF purports to be publishing objective criteria, the entire ATF Worksheet 4999 is a farce. First of all, the statutes defining a handgun, a rifle, and a short barrel rifle are concise and clear. Number 7, the term rifle means a weapon designed or redesigned, made or remade, and intended to be fired from the shoulder and designed or redesigned to be made and remade to use the energy of an explosive to fire only a single projectile through the rifle bore for each single pull of the trigger. The term short barrel rifle means a rifle having one or more barrel less than 16 inches in length, and any weapon made from a rifle, whether by alteration, modification, or otherwise, if such weapon is modified, has an overall length of less than 26 inches. The term handgun means A, a firearm which has a short stock and designed to be held and fired by the use of a single hand, and B, any combination of parts from which a firearm described in some paragraph A can be assembled. However, ATF has invented over 40 criteria from which to redefine a short barrel rifle in its ATF Worksheet 499. It is not acceptable for ATF to legislate and regulate in excess of what the statute is written and intended by Congress. And even if a firearm complies with this ATF Worksheet 499 and does not score 4 points, ATF may still choose to regulate it as a short barrel rifle, regardless of the manufacturer's stated intent. ATF cannot choose to ignore half of the statutory definition of a rifle on such a whim. Further, it is completely unacceptable to both provide a clear and objective test and at the same time provide a manner to discount the entire test to prosecute a gun owner or gun manufacturer. Finally, this criterion only applies to gun manufacturers. There is no mechanism for a law-abiding citizen such as myself to know whether the firearm I assemble at home does or does not comply with the ATF's proposed rule. This proposed rule change is unacceptable, a violation of the statutes at hand, and a violation of my Second Amendment rights. It must be withdrawn immediately. That's a really good one. I'm not commenting. Next up is Boilerplate. No, I don't think it is. Maybe it is. We'll find out about halfway through, probably. 109410. Attention, docket number ATF 2021 R-08 to the ATFE Department of Justice. My submission of comments opposing the proposed factoring criteria for firearms with attached stabilizing braces. I don't believe the suggested new brace factoring criteria is stopping crime and the true criminals. It is only going to turn millions of law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight if implemented. The ATF indicated these pistol stabilizing braces were legal for purchase by law-abiding citizens like myself. It seems like the ATF's primary goal now, reclassifying these legally owned, It seems like the ATF's primary goal is to now reclassify these legally owned braces as SBRs. Okay? The ATF should be enforcing law that Congress has enacted, not trying to change laws which they are not authorized to create. Your guidelines are so subjective and open to interpretation, it would be nearly impossible for law-abiding citizens to decipher what is legal and illegal. Please focus your efforts on actual criminals and not law-abiding citizens. As the Second Amendment is our country's is the Second Amendment in our great country's Bill of Rights, I believe such brace mandates, reclassifications, just continue to infringe upon our God-given rights. Thank you for your kind consideration, DH. This one's nice and easy to figure out. 109412, do not ban pistol braces. And then it goes on to be one of the boilerplates from GOA. Another boilerplate from GOA with a giant, big, chunky paragraph in front of it. 109441. So this is the first comment I've submitted on any gun rights subject. I don't really know the proper way to go about it. I haven't read anyone else's comments or example comments. Basically just learning from YouTube and friends within the gun community. But like most of us, I am sick of the constant battle to maintain our Second Amendment rights, so I submit this comment. Regarding the pistol braces, anyone who has used a brace will admit they don't function as well as a stock. They are short, flimsy, and in most situations are uncomfortable. Nevertheless, they are much better than nothing at all. We keep hearing comments from mainstream sources that these braces are a workaround or other similar terms, when in fact it's nothing more than the best possible product within the limits of the law, much like other products manufactured in this country. I will try not to drag this out. My main point is that, like most gun owners, I only use these braces on pistols in public or private gun ranges with others nearby, in which the braces make it safer and easier to use. This ban will have a major negative effect on millions of law-abiding citizens, and to expect brace owners to register under the NFA will not make the weapon any safer. At best, it will only take weapons out of the hands of our law-abiding citizens. Maybe that's the goal in part. Anyway, thank you for accepting this comment. And then the rest of that GOA boilerplate. This one is only boilerplate. And let's just say that it's GOAs. I don't know that FPC is doing a boilerplate anymore. Next up is 109442, which is boilerplate with a paragraph in front of it. I oppose the proposed directive to declare pistol braces illegal. With a stroke of a pen, that your agency ruled on and allowed for a decade or more. I'm a police officer with a federal agency and have used these devices due to an injury. I have never shouldered an AR pistol because of previous rulings and the declared previous prohibitions. I implore the ATF not to rule the braces to be prohibited due to your previous decisions to allow their sale to the public. Many Americans own these devices due to your past decisions, and I would hate to have to see citizens have to destroy their property or possibly be charged with a felony for possessing the devices when your agency had approved their sale and possession of them. Please do not put such a burden on the American citizens. And then boilerplate. I keep yawning. All right, so next up is another one that's boilerplate. It's the same boilerplate all the time. The one that says ATF estimates there are between 3 million to 7 million pistol braces in circulation, but a more accurate estimate, there could be as many as 40 million pistol braces in common use. So before that, though, there is one sentence. So the next up is 109445. The brace helps me shoot my AR because I got in a wreck and it's hard to shoot with a shoulder stock. And then the comment. Then the boilerplate. And then we have another one, 109379. I do not support this rule change. And then boilerplate. You know what we're missing in this one? All the antis. Where's all the antis on this one? Uh, 109396. You want to defund the police and take away our only defense. The government is helping the criminal and should be fully liable for such action. That's interesting. I guess if they're going to do stuff right in the middle of a certain, set of circumstances, then they have to expect the set of circumstances to come up in their comment period. It's not like they can say, oh, we're just going to take the time and place of this whole thing that we drop down at the time and choosing, that we choose, at the time and place that we choose. You can't talk about the setting. You can only talk about the instance. No, screw that. You can talk about why they're doing it now. In fact, I don't see very many comments talking about why they're doing it now. Okay, so the next up is 109-400. I am a 62-year-old law-abiding man who is strongly opposed to these changes. I bought these years ago and legally and in good faith, and in the very least, they should be grandfathered in. Yikes. Yeah, 62-year-old jerk. Don't ask for a grandfather. Remove the NFA. And then there's the boilerplate. Boilerplate from GOA. Next up is 109-402. Docket ATF 2021-0002 document. Proposed rule factoring. Criteria for firearms with attached stabilizing braces posted by the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives Bureau on June 10th, 2021. I oppose the proposed ruling covering stabilizing braces and other changes put into this document. I think it's real. The rules and point system defined in this proposal are totally arbitrary and uses vague language that could be interpreted as reclassifying every pistol with a brace as being an SBR or other NFA item. The language used is generalized, meaning that any given agent could interpret it drastically differently, depending on the option on that or their opinion on that given day. Since opinions based on these loose definitions are not even consistent for the same person from day to day, let alone different persons, leave too much in opinion or leave too much to opinion and not factual evidence. Even mood can change a person's judgment if a brace is meant to be used in a way to circumvent the NFA. On top of all that vagueness, the document leads off with a disclaimer that even if a pistol manages to score enough to pass the test, it can still be determined to be an SBR if the person doing the evaluation thinks it might be used in a way that violates the NFA. The ATF has gone back and forth a few times on what is and is not legal when it comes to braces. This is another case of deciding something is legal. Another case of deciding something legal is now a felony unless the NFA fee is paid. If something is illegal, it doesn't suddenly become legal just because I pay someone for the right to own it. And that is what a right is, a right, not a privilege. Criminals, by definition, break the law. The rule changes will only serve to disarm and inconvenience law-abiding citizens and will do nothing to make good guys safe from bad guys. In fact, it does the opposite. Also, I have a real need for a brace due to strain injury from years of typing on a computer keyboard. I find most braces not to help me, but one in particular does because it's used leverage to help me hold up the firearm and not a strap to hold it to my arm. The weight of the pistol naturally pivots on the grip and then rests against the underside of my arm, not strapped to the top of my arm. My elbow acts as a pivot point and makes the holding and shooting a lot easier. This particular brace would not be considered a stock and make my pistol would not be considered a stock and make my pistol an SBR. This document is full of inconsistencies, contradictions, and a vagueness that makes its function as a set of rules for determining what is not a pistol brace, a brace, impossible to understand and enforce. It should therefore be withdrawn. Thank you, Nigel. And his name is his business. And then we'll go to the next one. Just the boilerplate. Uh, 109-413. As a retired Washington State Chief of Police with 35 years of law enforcement service, I oppose the proposal to redefine the redefinition of the definition of pistol arms braces by the ATF. I am a law-abiding gun owner, and I can barely imagine problems with trying to enforce a new law that would criminalize something that a government agency just about a year ago defined as legal. Many folks have purchased and lawfully used these assistive devices to safely and proficiently use their firearms. For an administrative agency to suddenly reverse course and in effect make criminals where no criminal activity has occurred is simply wrong and should not be allowed. That's a good one. Boilerplate, completely boilerplate, no extra paragraph. Comment 109422. Sadly, the ATF is becoming a political toy for a tyrannical government who is more interested in removing the Second Amendment than finding the true cause of crime. It is not an inanimate object, be it a gun, baseball bat, or a knife. These are just instruments that evil uses. There are many good reasons for pistol braces on MSRs for sporting, recreational shooting, and home protection. Please do not unconstitutionally restrict something that the Founding Fathers and Supreme Court have ruled constitutional. I'm not commenting. So next up is 109425. It is the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Items like the AR-15 in both current rifle and pistol form should not be changed in the light of this bill. The bill aims to hurt people that are disabled, as in braces that assist in one-hand shooting of the AR-15 and other pistol-sized carbines, shortened AKs, MPX, and other derivatives. Doing this will not help with the mass shooting, illegal concealed carry, or the threats to the everyday civilians you are trusted to protect. This will make many citizens felon for just no reason. This is targeting the 2A community and its patrons like arms manufacturers. And then the last one, 25th. Wow, holy moly, not a little one. So it is 109430. This is a comment for docket ATF 2021 R-08, factoring criteria for firearms with attached stabilizing braces. I do not support this proposed rule and believe we should instead stick with the status quo alternative. The included worksheet is highly subjective, and two reasonable people could come up with very different scores for a firearm, making it not a good tool for the task. Not only is the worksheet very unhelpful because of all its subjectiveness and vagueness, I believe it is harmful and dangerous because of its importance regarding NFA law. Civilians and ATF agents will likely come up with vastly different point values using the worksheet, which for me was reinforced by comparing my interpretation of the worksheet with ATF's examples in the document. The worksheet, as well as the reasoning given behind its criteria, makes too many assumptions about the size and strength of individuals, which are not true for everyone. The way some of the criteria are defined also leave too much room for interpretation, which will lead different people to score the same firearm very differently. Throughout the rest of this comment, I will point out some of the parts of the worksheet that are subjective, as well as go into detail why they are subjective with examples. Starting with section 1 of the worksheet, the firearm size and weight limitations, as well as the reasoning behind it, are entirely subjective and would need to differ based on an individual's strength and stature. These physical dimensions of a firearm cannot be applied evenly to the population, since people's strength and stature can vary greatly. Healthy, in-shape adults can range between 100 and 300 pounds in body weight alone, with even greater strength and dimension, such as forearm circumference differences. Another example of why this is the case can be seen with the example classifications. The document claims that the SBA-3's cuff design fails to even partially wrap around the shooter's firearm. However, with my firearms, this is not the case. This brace wraps nearly around my firearm, and on other individuals, it may in fact wrap entirely around their firearm. Section 2, the worksheet continues to use criteria that are too subjective. In addition to the cuff type definition classifications, the accessory design and rear surface area sections are also highly subjective. The document gives the SB3A brace a point for incorporating shoulder stock features because it incorporates an adjustment lever, a quick detached sling mount, and a hardened polymer type material. None of these features are unique to shoulder stocks, and none of them are necessary for a shoulder stock to function. Adjustment and QD sling mounts are for convenience and ergonomics. Even though the document mentions that the forearm size differences between individuals are typically not massive, there are still differences and personal preferences that make adjustability a useful feature for braces. Hardened polymers are used throughout all the firearms industry, and to give a brace a point based off this seems absurd. Polymers are simply very functional and cost-effective materials to construct accessories out of. The rear surface area portion of the worksheet is also vague and confusing. The document claims the SB3 has additional material added for shouldering, but when considering the design of the brace as a whole, I do not see any additional material and would give the brace 0 points for this section. All the material on the end of the SBA3 has a purpose. The plastics on the top portion are for interfacing with the buffer tube and preventing the adjustment mechanism from resting on the shooter's forearm. The SBP3A, in my opinion, does not have any additional material added, just the material required naturally by the design of the brace. As one final note, labor was not accounted for in this proposal when calculating the cost for civilians to rebarrel and convert a braced AR-15 firearm into a rifle. And then it just ends right there. I don't know if it got cut off, because that seems like it got cut off. But that was interesting. It was a long one, but there was a lot of interesting stuff in it. All right, well, so that's an hour and a half it takes to read 25 from both sides. I didn't put too many comments in there. I commented a little bit, I guess. Barbecue never answered. He just fakes it. He comes in and does one of these, and then he just leaves. He's not even in here anymore. But thanks to the 14 others, the computer tells me how many people are watching. So thanks for watching live. For people that show up later, interesting one today. We had 25 comments on the pistol side, not one negative one. What's up with that? Every single one of them was "go screw you, ATF," right? And they were all good. A bunch of them had boilerplates in them, but whatever. And then we had something like almost 50% anti-stuff over on the redefinition of firearms receiver. So is this something we have to shout from the rooftops, that the redefinition of firearms receivers is being neglected by the firearms community and is being taken over by the antis? I don't know. I think we should be able to stop it no matter what, and I don't think it needs to be shouted from the rooftops. It should be able to be accomplished fairly easily, right? It's a 22 long rifle type situation, not like anything more than that. But that's what it is. We got an hour and a half into it. Thank everybody for showing up. Thanks to, if I could find it, Nighthawk. Threw a big super chat in earlier. Much appreciated. I am fighting the battle with taxes and bills. I'm losing. We had a really bad week last week, so we're going to be doing some stuff probably live today and later on throughout the week to have more success in that battle. It's a battle. I mean, we either win it or we lose it. So with that, thanks for showing up, and we'll be back to pick you up later. Oh, wait, you know what? I keep forgetting that I got commercials. So I've already played a couple other commercials, and then there's this one. And then there's also this one. This is the longest commercial that I've ever made. But that's because I don't know how to open that one up and make it longer. As soon as I figure that out, I will make that one longer. All right, now we have commercials. So with that, you can all get up and get back to work. Have a good day. We'll be back to pick you up later.